Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I hope she never has kids? I'm 22, female. I have 3-year-old twin boys that I had a baby girl not even 2 days ago. My sister Jody is 34 and has been suffering with infertility for the past 10 years as well as repeated miscarriages. I used to feel really bad for her and also a bit guilty as I got pregnant twice while being on contraception. It caused some tension between us when I was pregnant with my twins because she was jealous, and I was already feeling intense guilt. This time around, she wasn't as jealous, but I still felt it was unfair. As my husband and I have decided we are done having kids, I offered to be a surrogate for my sister as soon as I'm cleared after this baby, and she seemed like she was absolutely over the moon with that. In turn, she offered to watch the twins while I was in labor with my new baby, which was a relief on my part. I went into labor on Thursday morning and Jody came over to watch the kids while my husband and I went to the hospital. She seemed like she was in a great mood and promptly rushed us out the door. Everything seemed fine until we got home this morning to find thousands worth of destruction to pretty much every baby item we've purchased. Even the crib mattress was torn open. Everything was ruined. Jody tried to pin it on the twins, but they're 3, and this level of destruction had to have been done by an adult. My twins can't even reach some of the stuff that was destroyed, and they certainly do not know how to open diaper packages and tear them apart. I know kids, especially toddlers, can do a lot of damage in a short time, but I also know my children aren't capable of doing what happened. I told my sister to get the heck out of my home and stay away from me and my family. I got really angry, and I said a lot of stuff I shouldn't have, but one of them was, I hope you never have a child, and if you do, then I'll tell it exactly what you've done to mine. I told her we can't afford to fix the damages caused, but since she still denies it and she won't cough up, I told her because of her the baby doesn't even have a safe space to sleep. My parents got wind of what I said, and even after I explained the situation, they still think I'm being an a-hole for saying something so vile to my sister after all she's done for us. Obviously, my judgment is clouded, so am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Info. Can you tell us more about the damage and why it's had to have been done by an adult? Not the a-hole, by the way. Even if it was the toddlers, she should have prevented them, obviously. But I'm just flabbergasted that an adult woman would do this after you offered such a generous favor. A lot of the damage was beyond what my toddlers can do. For a start, the baby monitor was taken off the wall, and to get to that, my husband needed a step ladder. No chair in the world would have made them tall enough to reach it. I mentioned in another comment the entire crib was smashed and mattress cut up. My boys can climb out of cribs, but they cannot climb in. So there's no way they could have gotten the mattress out, and if they did, there's no way it could have gotten cut up. There was also a child-proof handle on the door, and I've tested them countless times and boys don't know how to open it yet. So unless the door was open for them, they couldn't have gotten in. A picture painted for us framed on the wall, again out of reach of the boys. It was smashed. And since they're barefoot 100% of the time at home, one or both would have gotten cut, but neither of them have a scratch anywhere on their body. Lastly, both boys denied it, and I believe them. Not the a-hole. Your sister flew into a jealous rage when faced with all the things she wants and doesn't have. Can you imagine how terrifying that was for your twins? Those poor babies. OP, you need to file a police report for destruction of property and maybe even contact CPS. Your sister is unwell and should not be allowed to provide care to children. You didn't know, but now you do. Never let your sister anywhere near you or your children. Your sister needs mental health services and she's not going to get them if your parents rather pass the blame on to you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister the truth about why I moved out the day I turned 18? When I, 23 female, was 10 years old, my parents divorced. My dad was so mean in the way he spoke to my mom. He always made her do all the housework and difficult parenting, but would swoop in to be the fun parent and apologize to my siblings and I for her behavior. If I'm honest, for a while I believed all the things he said about my mom, and I hated her for years. I still feel so guilty about it too. My dad's friend was my mother's boss at the time of their separation. I don't know if my dad got mom fired, but I assume he did because she lost her job the day after she left him. He made more money than she did. His name was on the house, and he knew she didn't have the resources to dispute him in court for very long. So he drew the process out for as long as possible until my mom ended up homeless and living in her car. She lost custody of all 3 of us and had to move to another state to stay with her sister because she couldn't find work here without an address. He cut her off from us and we didn't talk for years. As soon as my mom was gone, my dad began treating me the way he had treated her. It was a total switch from the man I'd grown up with. All of a sudden, it was like he hated me. It took that total 180-degree for me to realize what had happened between him and my mom. I pieced together everything over the next few years, went through some documents from the divorce that confirmed what I suspected. And by the time I was 16, I started saving money to move out as soon as possible. And at midnight on my 18th, I took my things and left. I later reconnected with my mom too. I've done pretty well for myself after leaving. I have a job, an apartment, a baby. I'm happy with my life. My sister contacted me a few days ago. She just turned 18 and she wanted to see me. We met at a park and talked for a while. When she asked me why I left, I tried to lie and come up with better answers, but she kept pressing, so I told her the truth. All of it, not sparing the details. She didn't respond well to it. She told me our dad would have never done those things, that our mom was the problem. She said she didn't believe me about any of it, and then she stormed off. I told our mom what happened, and she said that I shouldn't have told my sister at all. She thinks that it wasn't fair for me to shatter her reality like that, because she's just a kid and our dad is still her hero. I know what it's like to have that reality-shattering moment, and it sucks. But I mean, she asked for the truth. Was I wrong to give it to her? Not A-hole. She insisted that you tell her the real reason why you left. She's technically an adult. She should have expected the answer to be unpleasant, because why would you have left the minute you could otherwise? From what I understand, my dad told her and my younger brother that he and I had a disagreement about something, and the whole thing was just a big misunderstanding. So she wasn't really expecting my actual answer at all. And she just believed that an 18-year-old would leave home because of a simple misunderstanding? Why would her dad, who she thinks is a hero, allow a simple misunderstanding to permanently damage his relationship with his daughter? Honestly, I don't blame her if that's what she really believed. He's incredibly manipulative. There was definitely a time in my life where if he had told me the sky was green, I would have listened. Trying to question him about anything would result in him making you feel like you were the crazy one. He more than likely framed the whole thing as me being unwilling and unreasonable, and him being the ever-doting father who was heartbroken by me abandoning them and leaving. Not the a-hole. It sucks, but you told an 18-year-old, not a 5-year-old. As long as you said factual things that you could share, you did nothing wrong. Your mother is wrong, but not an a-hole. I imagine what she went through is traumatic and probably colors how you should handle things. By the way, I understand and appreciate why you feel guilt for believing your father. However, for what it's worth, you were an actual kid being manipulated by your father. That doesn't make things better for how your mother might feel, but it wasn't your fault. Thank you. My mom has said she doesn't blame me for being manipulated by him and that she understands why I felt the way I did towards her. I know rationally that I was only a kid and I didn't know the truth, so it couldn't have been my fault. But as an adult now, it's still hard to accept and remember that sometimes. I'm sure I'll get to that point eventually though. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my husband after I found that he was hiding my son's motorcycle? I got my son a 7K motorcycle for his 18th birthday this past June. My son is obsessed with automobiles and loves motorcycles. In his room, he has plenty of models and posters of motorcycles of all types. His bi-dad passed away when he was just 12, and now I'm married to my current husband and he has kids of his own. My husband has always been against my son's interest in motorcycles. He thinks I'm encouraging him to be reckless, distracting him from school, and by extension his future, and spoiling him and blowing away money by spending 7K on a motorcycle. This caused some tension between him and my son, so I told him to stop complaining about it. Around 2 weeks ago, my son's motorcycle went missing. We opened a police report, but nothing came out of it. It just disappeared. My husband had a smirk on his face the entire time, just walking around saying, "I told you so. You just wasted your money." This was unbearable to hear, to be quite honest. My mother-in-law visited a few days ago. She was talking about the other house my husband owns and mentioned seeing a motorcycle, one that's similar to the one that we lost in my husband's garage while she was cleaning it. She goes to clean that house weekly even though it's empty, as my husband plans on giving it to his kids as inheritance. I was puzzled, so I asked if she was certain, but she showed me a photo she took of it which confirmed that it was indeed my son's motorcycle. I immediately rushed to call my husband and confront him about it. He admitted that he took and hid a motorcycle in his garage as a last resort, after me and his stepson kept brushing him and his thoughts off about the 7K being spent on something unnecessary, and that could cause issues. I blew up at him demanding he return it, but he refused and told me he had been considering selling it and giving the money back to me so I could use it wisely this time. I told him I was serious and that I'd call the police. He literally said, "This is a family matter and cops can't do anything about it." I had enough, so I called the cops as soon as I ended the call with him. The motorcycle was found and returned, but my husband had to be taken in since there was an open file about the motorcycle going missing. He was let go eventually, but he was livid with me. He came home yelling about how awful what I did was, and how crazy my behavior was. I refused to engage in the argument, but he told his entire family about it, and they judged me for calling the police on my own husband, even though I already asked him to return it. He said he was just looking out for my son, and that one day we'll realize that he was right, but only when it's too late. My son isn't speaking to me or my husband. I feel horrible about the whole situation, and I'm starting to think I handled this the wrong way. Now for the top comments. Not Day Hall. The debate about whether a motorcycle is a good gift for an 18-year-old is irrelevant. Completely. Red herring. Ignore any responses based on this. Your husband stole an item and hid it, then allowed you to go to the police about it, smugly knowing they wouldn't turn up anything and lied to you either overtly or by omission about it. When confronted, he doubled down. No remorse, no contrition. You were right to call him out. You were right to involve the police when he threatened to sell it against your wishes. And my recommendation would be to begin divorce proceedings, because this man does not have any respect for you whatsoever. He's already proven he will commit crimes and file false police reports in order to get his way. This is a your son or your husband situation. Please choose your child. I also think it's highly telling his family thinks someone shouldn't go to the police if it's something their husband did. It's apologism and one step away from saying you shouldn't press charges if he hits you. Be careful with him. He's been proven to want to cause you and your son harm for the sake of knowing better than you. I'm not sure if I'd even call it a choice between the husband and the son. It's a choice between being able to make your own decisions or becoming a servant to the pompous creature you're married to. Get out. Not Day Hall. Once you gave the motorcycle to your son, it became your son's property and not the property of your husband's to take. Additionally, taking it and hiding it like that and not coping to it after you filed the police report is really horrible. He literally stole the motorcycle. I would seriously rethink staying married to him. Who the heck does he think he is to teach a lesson in that way? Oh, and yeah, you did the right thing calling the police on him. Maybe next time he will rethink doing something so stupid. I'm trying to also figure out stepdad's logic with this, because once the police report was made, it's on record with a plate and VIN. Anyone who tried selling to may look it up for issues or get caught with it later. It will come back to stepdad eventually. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for walking my sister down the aisle when our mother's husband believed he would be the one to do it? My sister got married on Saturday. He asked me several months ago to walk her down the aisle and to have a dance to honor our dad. I said, of course. Our dad died when I was 11 and she was 7, and we both have memories of him, and she wanted to honor him and feel connected to him on the day and saw me as the best person for the job. So, I walked her to her husband and danced to the song our dad used to sing to us. Our mother remarried before our dad was a year gone. Her husband has no children and was unable to have kids of his own. So he made a big attempt to take over our dad's place and be regarded as dad, which he wasn't. Despite knowing this and never being asked, he assumed he would be fulfilling father of the bride duties at my sister's wedding. And on the day he learned it was me she asked, he was visibly upset. I had an idea he was expecting it, but said nothing. Neither did she. At the reception, he confronted me and asked why I would do it when he's right there, and how was I more deserving than him, her father figure. I told him it was my sister's choice, and she wanted me so we could honor our dad. He told me he deserved better than to be completely ignored in the wedding, and treated like he was not a parent and not part of our family for the last 15 years. I shrugged, which angered him even more. He and my mom are both furious at me for saying yes when I knew he wanted to do it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Why are they even blaming you? It's your sister's wedding and her choice. I'm not suggesting she's an a-hole for asking you to do it at all, but it was her decision. All you did was agree to it. Just a wild guess, but they might have thought that OP saying no would mean mom's husband should have been asked. People like that will always look for someone to blame. My mother always wanted to walk me down the aisle and always said no, that it would be my dad, divorced since I was 6. The day my dad died last year and my little brother and I realized he would never see us married, I was getting married in November. Bro was 25, 11 years younger and my stepmom's and dad's child. So he offered to walk me to represent our father. It was a very special moment between the two of us. When I was planning the wedding, my mom jumped up and down clapping and happy squealing, saying, "Yes, your dad's dead. Now I can walk you down the aisle." She stopped talking to me for 3 months when I told her. It was all about how I didn't respect her. Should have had her even when he was alive. Her. We eloped and my brother was there by my side. You cannot demand a position in someone's life or wedding. It has to be earned. Opie's parents are just looking at someone to blame and take it out on. Not Dahal. He doesn't understand that he may be your mom's husband, but he isn't your dad. I also didn't like that stepdad credits himself for being Opie's dad for 15 years, when Opie and sister lost their bio father at 11 and 7. Opie was an adult 7 years later or 6 years after their mom remarried. But stepdad continues to count so he can get more credit than the father that raised the kids from infancy. Those are pretty formative years. In addition to that, many people don't stop needing or getting support from their parents at 18. Dude's not asking for more credit than their bio dad. He's just saying he did his best to step in and fill the role. Over that 15 years, we have no idea how much support and whatnot he's provided for them.